the first technical session of the ASDA 2019. The session is named as Beyond Farm. First of all, I would like to introduce the chairperson of this session. He's an eminent scientist, professor of University of Peradeniya, renowned career in field of extension, and he has over 25 years of experience in academic research and curriculum development, with over 16 years of practical experience in the field of extension and rural development as a senior extensionist. In his 25 years of academic career, he has developed expertise in agriculture extension, rural development, communication for development, agriculture journalism, media use, and natural resource management. During the university career, he has supervised a number of undergraduate and postgraduate students for their respective degrees. After his retirement from the university career in 2009, he has engaged in managing number of extension organizations, leading private sector establishments, and served as a consultant to many states and non-governmental organizations of local and international origin. In his research career, he has published number of local and international publications. At present, he is working as the chairperson for Sri Lanka Development Journalists Forum. Ladies and gentlemen, without taking any more time, let me invite Professor W.A.D.P. Vanikasundara to chair this session of ASDA 2019. Then, let me introduce the panel of judges of this session. First of all, let me introduce Mr. WGMG Dayavansa, former Additional Director General Development of Department of Agriculture and currently working as the Project Director of BACC Project of PGRC Gannoru. Then, let me introduce Mr. R.M. Neville Rajapaksa, Director Agriculture of Mahaweli Authority of Sri Lanka. And Mr. R.M. Nandasiri, former Additional Director General Development of Department of Agriculture. Before moving to the presentation sessions, I would like to give you some notices on presentation time allocation. For invited presenter, the presentation time is 20 minutes. Other than that, all other presenters, presentation time will be 15 minutes, followed by 5 minutes of discussion. At the 12th minute, after the 12th minute, one bell will be ringed, and after 14 minutes, 2 bells will be ringed, and at end of 15 minutes, 3 bells will be ringed. So all the presenters are required to adhere to these time regulations. And House is requested to keep the silence till the end of the session. Then let me hand over the session to the chairman. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vijay Singh. I hope the audience is comfortable and some of the people are seated far back. Is there any possibility of you all coming in front, or you are more comfortable seating at the back, so you can. Okay, so we have a interesting presentation session this afternoon, and I'm very happy that to be able to chair this session, especially when we have the invited speaker, Professor C.V. Yoganathan. Let me introduce him very briefly, because he was my teacher and the teacher of so many of the people seated in this audience, and he was also not a stranger to the Department of Agriculture, because he started his career in the Department of Agriculture, and he served about 1 year as a research officer in Mahaweli Parliament, and then he left to take up in Mahaweli Authority as an agriculture officer for some time, and then only he joined the faculty, and after 39 years of teaching and research, he retired a year ago. So he has been the pillar of agriculture extension education in this country, and he was actually pioneering, and he was also bringing his practical experience to this teaching and research work, and he was a good mentor. So when I also came from the extension field from out there at the Tree Research Institute, he was my mentor. So he has been doing the same thing for so many people, and we are privileged to listen to Professor Yoganathan. And after Professor Yoganathan, we have 4 technical presentations, and we have already really behind time, so we will not take a lot of time in discussions, hopefully, unless you have very serious comments to make. But of course, this session is for you, so therefore your comments also is well taken. Thank you. Shall I then invite Professor Yoganathan to start? Thank you.
Good afternoon to all of you. As the chairman said, I'll be talking to you for the next 20 minutes or so about agricultural extension in this country. When we talk about agriculture extension, I would say, as indicated there, it's a neglected component for the past many years in the agriculture knowledge and information system. When we think of the agriculture knowledge and information system, there are three major sectors, basically research, extension, and farmer. And for research, we do have an organized agency called CARP, the Council for Agriculture Research Policy, which is responsible for formulation and implementation of the research policies. Unfortunately, for extension, we don't have a similar organization, but in 1992, there was a committee called NAEC, that is the National Agriculture Extension Committee, which was formed and attached to the CARP. And in this committee, there were representatives from various government, private, and NGO organizations. And I represented the university, and of course, Mr. Vairasinghe, who was then the Deputy Director of Extension in the department, was also in the committee. We met a few times and formulated some policy paper and sent it to the ministry, and that was the end of it. Nothing happened beyond that, and it got lost somewhere in the ministry. Then, recently, in the year 2016, there was a meeting here in Gannorwa, organized by the SLAEA, that is the Sri Lanka Agriculture Extension Association, and in that conference also, we came out with some policy issues, but unfortunately, up to now, sad to say, to my knowledge, there's no agricultural extension policy paper in a comprehensive written form in this country. The real role of extension is basically to narrow the gap between research and extension, that is the potential production and the actual production. To just quote an example, if you take the main crop rice, the potential yield, as you know, is about maybe 9, 10, 11 tons per hectare, whereas actual yield is about how much? 4 to 5 tons per hectare? Yeah, so there's a big gap between the potential and the actual yield. And it is partly the responsibility of the extension agency to narrow the gap. We can't actually fill the gap, but at least narrow the gap as far as possible. And in this context, extension services engaged in two major issues. One is information dissemination, and the other one is education. In education, we try to enhance the knowledge of farmers, change their knowledge, and also develop the necessary skills. And not only that, in addition to these three aspects, we have the responsibility to encourage the farmers to adopt these new practices as far as possible. In order to adopt these new practices, naturally the farmers need the inputs, such as irrigation, agrochemicals, marketing, etc. And all these inputs are provided not by extension, but extension has a direct or indirect role to play in this, because extension agencies are the ones who know the requirements of the farmers, and it's our responsibility in extension to facilitate the supply of all these agencies. And in our country, there are three types of organizations engaged in extension: government, non-government, and the private sector. Government, of course, as you know, is service-oriented. Non-government sector is basically empowerment-oriented, trying to transfer the power to people. And the private sector is, of course, largely profit-oriented. The unfortunate thing is that we don't have a very close linkage among these organizations so that the duplication of effort could be minimized and we could be more complementary rather than being competitive. So this partnership or interrelationships among these extension organizations have to be improved, and there's a lot of room to change there. In addition, the agriculture extension organizations should have a good relationship with the agri support service organizations like the private sector, because it is our responsibility in extension to make sure the necessary inputs are made available to the farmers in the required places at the required times with some good quality. The main problem we have is the monitoring mechanism, because all these things have to be monitored. In our country, we do have in the district level the DAC and the DCC. There's a district agricultural committee and the district coordinating committee chaired by the government agent or the district secretary. And it is in these meetings we try to develop some relationships and try to organize these things together. Now is another important issue, the devolution. Actually, under the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, in 1989, the agricultural extension was devolved to the provinces. And in this context, we had to realize the positive and negative impacts. The positive part is that the provincial director is in a position now to really develop the programs and implement them without much tussle with the headquarters. But on the other hand, the negative side is the headquarters or the overall national agency has a lot of problems in coordination. Actually, coordination is a nice word to talk about or write on the chalkboard or blackboard, but then it's the most difficult concept to practice in the field. And the coordination between the central extension, that is, the central extension unit or department is responsible for the extension in the inter-provincial areas, and the provincial extension service there for the provinces. And I have quoted some figures which may not be quite accurate, but what I'm trying to stress there is that in the inter-provincial areas, the extension density is somewhat better. An agriculture instructor has to cater to about 750 to 1,000 or 1,500 farm families, whereas in the provinces, the agriculture instructor has to cater to a larger number of farmers, which is a real problem. Another area that is to be concerned is research extension linkage. Now, why do we do research in agriculture is to make sure that we develop some technologies that are adaptable by the farmers. So in order to understand the real field situation, we in research should have a clear understanding of what the farmers' problems are. And it is the extension service which is really familiar with the field setup, and therefore it is their responsibility to feed back the field problems to the research so that relevant research could be undertaken which will be of use to the farmers. And in order to do that, we do have some mechanisms in the Department of Agriculture where we have the PTWG or the Provincial Technical Working Group, then the Research and Extension Dialogues, field trials, and also sometimes the research officers taking part in farmer training classes. All these activities help to improve the linkage between the research and the extension. However, the linkage is still rather weak, and we had to really strengthen this linkage as far as possible. The next two issues that are pointed out here, I would like to say something going back to history. When I graduated in 1971, how many years? 48 years back. That time, there was a bigger gap between research and extension. For example, the salary of a research officer was 650 rupees per month, and that of an extension officer was 360 rupees per month, which was 3 increments less than the research officer. Because that time the annual increment was only 30 rupees. Similarly, for research, people were recruited with only honors degree, class degree. And for extension, they were recruited without class. And thirdly, other difference was with respect to postgraduate training. Most of the postgraduate training was for research and not for extension. All these differences were there. But fortunately, with the introduction of this agricultural service, the research officers, extension officers, lecturers to schools of agriculture, agricultural economists, subject matter specialists, all of them are put to the same level. That really helped, because now all the officers are recruited at the same level in the agricultural service. Now we come to some of the issues in the extension management. The first and foremost is the shortage of competent extension staff. As you know, at the management level, we had these provincial directors, deputy directors, assistant directors, etc. And I understand there are hundreds of cadre vacancies in that now. because of some legal issue. I think someone might help me later. I think some 400, 500 vacancies are there because there were no recruitments made in the last few years. And I know in the provinces, the provincial directors are finding it rather difficult to manage, and they are managing with senior promoted agriculture instructors holding these positions. Another bad thing that happened with the devolution of power and with this provincialization in 1989 was the removal of agricultural extension workers at the grassroots level. The KVS or the Krishi Vyapti Survey or agriculture extension workers, all these agriculture extension workers were removed from the Department of Agriculture and they were appointed to the Ministry of Public Administration as Grama Niladaris. And that created a big vacuum at the field level, and that could not be filled. That's why the extension density came up to about 3,000 to 3,500 because the AI had to deal with the farmers directly. And of course, to some extent in 2002, by the appointment of about 9,000 ARPAs, that is Agriculture Research and Production Assistants, this was solved to some extent. But the responsibility of these ARPAs was this: out of the 5 days in a week, for 2 days, they had to work in extension. But unfortunately, they didn't have the competence or qualifications to either do research or extension or production for that matter. So the department was entrusted with the responsibility of training these ARPAs in a short time, and that they could do partly to some extent. Other issue is this: to what extent are the extension officers accountable? Unfortunately, it's rather difficult to evaluate the performance of extension, but that's not an excuse, because it takes a longer time for the farmers to adapt. And if we want to introduce a performance-based reward system, I think which was tried for some time in a pilot project level, it was rather difficult because the performance could not be evaluated easily in agriculture extension. And that was a big issue as far as agriculture extension is concerned. How about the facilities? Yes, with the introduction of the cyber extension, many of these cyber units were established in the agrarian service centers, and we do now have a lot of ICTs, information communication technology, and all these things have to be further improved if we want to make sure that there's a good extension service in this country. Another problem is sustainability. There are two things. One is the organizational sustainability, and the other one is the financial sustainability. Just to bring in an example of organizational sustainability, IAES, which means Integrated Agricultural Extension Service, which was implemented in our country from 1993 to 98, where the four major government agencies, namely the Department of Agriculture, Department of Export Agriculture, Department of Animal Production and Health, and the Coconut Cultivation Board, all these four agencies worked together. And they could work together only for about 5 years, and it was like a temporary marriage, and then they divorced. They got back to their own departments because they couldn't continue with. That's why I say just having 4 departments together working is not very easy. Similarly, the training and visit system, which was introduced with World Bank funding in 1979, and it was there for about 10 years. And that had a lot of financial implications, and once the international funding was withdrawn, we as a government, the country could not support such a extension setup. Therefore, it was also then stopped. One more important thing is about the information that we provide to farmers. To my knowledge, in our country, we have been concentrating a lot on production, up to production. Beyond production, storage, post-harvest operations, marketing, and then nutrition, that part in the whole chain is to a great extent neglected. So that's very important for us to concentrate on this because the marketing margin is so high. What I mean by the marketing margin is what the poor producer gets and what the consumer pays there's a big gap between the two. So therefore, in order to reduce the marketing margin, we had to concentrate more on the post-production extension advice. Generally, our extension is mostly supply driven, and we should try to make it more demand driven, meaning that the farmers should be able to demand what they want so that it will be very relevant to their service. The last two issues I would just touch upon it very briefly. Training in extension. In our country, when we were students, again going back to 1967, there was no extension word in the agriculture curriculum in the degree level. And agriculture extension was introduced as half a subject only in 1975. And then we introduced more subjects, and after 20 years, by 1995, we were in a position to create even a new Department of Agriculture Extension in the Faculty of Agriculture. Similarly, at the diploma level and in the practical farm school levels, the extension syllabus was very much improved. Research in extension, unfortunately, is not good still. The type of research done is very little, and that's also done by mostly the academic staff and then some undergraduate and postgraduate students and some development projects. But if we want to adopt some new technologies in the technology transfer and to encourage farmers to adopt them better, we have to do much more research in agriculture extension. Maybe it's time for us to at least have a research arm in the extension division so that the research in extension would be strengthened more. Finally, I would like to just bring a quotation from an interview I had with the AESA, that is Agriculture Extension in South Asia, in February 2014, just at the time of my retirement from the university service, and that is this: without a comprehensive policy, agricultural extension is unlikely to get the priority and attention it deserves. Formulation and implementation of an extension policy should be the first priority for improving extension delivery in Sri Lanka. Thank you very much for patient listening, and I also like to thank the organizers of ASDA, especially the Director General, for inviting me to make this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Yoganathan.
There may be some questions. Yeah.
I think you have highlighted some very important issues because the problems and policies are full of is visible everywhere in the field of agricultural extension. So I am not sure with the time availability whether we could go for a long discussion, but I am sure many of you will have a lot of ideas to share, but probably this may not necessarily be the forum for that. And please, if you have any ideas, sharing it among ourselves and eventually to go for this, his vision. I think he was always talking about the carp to become carrot and like that. So many, that is a real needs for going for extension policies. Yet I think he highlighted the issues and also I think we have to take this fairly serious, I believe, because as it is the research and extension organizations like the Department of Agriculture conventionally have been giving priority to in-farm issues. Now we are talking about beyond farm. So is one great real need is agricultural extension. So it's not that we don't have any options. The options are there, but I think in the field of scientific disciplines, agricultural research, it's easy sometimes to continue to be working and developing into your own specialty. But when it comes to agricultural extension, the way it has been organized in the departments and also in other extension organizations, there is no serious research into the policies or any other applications. So we borrow from various other sciences and try to apply various things, and unfortunately because of the lack of a real research base, a lot of other people tell us what to do in the name of agriculture extension. So this is where the extension has been brought down to the services and the subsidies. Everything is decided by somebody else. So I think from what Professor Yoganathan highlighted, there have been efforts to change or improve, but we have not been able to be very successful. And if you want to go beyond farm, it is the time because it's otherwise too late. So going for multi-sector approach like this morning, the presentations were telling us that the importance of working together, the scientists, the basic science and applied science, and also then comes the agricultural social science, has to be working together to find solutions. I think with that remark I will close this session because we need to go for the next set of presentations. So thank you very much, Professor Yoganathan. I think we have
I would like to give my sincere gratitude on behalf of committee to Senior Professor C. Shivagunanathan for enlightening the House as an invited presenter. Committee has arranged a token of appreciation, and on behalf of the committee, I kindly request the professor to accept it. To hand over the token, I would like to invite Dr. R.M. Herath, Director Socioeconomics and Planning.
Okay, let's get on with the rest of the presentations. The next presentation, technical presentation, is on consumer willingness to pay for commodities certified under Sri Lanka Good Agricultural Practices, SL GAP, presented by Mr. A.S.M. Roshan, and it's written by a paper by M. and also with M. Burton. Mr. Roshan, please.
A very good afternoon to all of you. So my name is Roshan, and I'm presenting my paper, which is the title is on consumer willingness to pay for commodities certified under Sri Lanka Good Agriculture Practices. Moving on to the outline of my presentation, I'll be talking to you about some background and objectives, methodology, results and discussion, and finally the conclusion. So starting with some background for my research. As we all know, food is an essential component in our lives, and it is ranked at third out of top 10 mankind problems, which we are facing in 50 years from this time. So I think not only the volume of food, the quality of food is also important. That's why food safety is a widely discussed issue in the world over the past few decades. And also we can see increasingly demanding for safe food, and if we think about the situation in developing countries, the initial focus is for satisfying the export market. However, with increased literacy levels and the media intervention in media, the local consumers in developing countries also demanding for safer food. But however, unfortunately, this demand is not satisfied. The domestic consumers are satisfying is still underdeveloped. If we think about the situation in Sri Lanka, it's not very different from other developing countries. It's the same. And on top of that, we have alarming concerns on overuse of agrochemicals. And also we can see increased concentration in heavy metals and pesticide residues in perishables. So that is a very big problem for us. So let's see how good agriculture practices, GAP, improve the food safety. Basically, GAP is a process certification system used to certify farms. And if we go for the FAO definition, GAP is practices that addresses environmental, economic, and social sustainability for on-farm processes and result in safe and quality agricultural products. So, GAP process. From seed to farm gate, the entire process is monitored. So, it assures a safer and quality assured product at the end. So, GAP positively contribute to increase the food safety through limiting agrochemicals, and also it increases the hygiene in production and harvesting. So, let's see the Sri Lankan version of GAP, Sri Lanka GAP. So, this is initiated as on a policy decision to promote food safety, and this was jointly developed by the Department of Agriculture and Sri Lanka Standard Institute, SLSI, in 2016. So the main emphasis on GAP, Sri Lanka GAP, is limiting agrochemical use, and this is implemented by DOA with collaboration with provincial departments, Maha Valley, and private sector. And this gap certification is undertaken by a separate division in department, the SL gap certification unit. So our plans at the first stage, these commodities will be available only in the supermarkets, but it will be expanded to other markets also at the later stages. So my objectives of the research, first objective is to estimate the willingness to pay for two Sri Lanka gap certified commodities, namely rice and tomato. Second one is to analyze the factors influencing consumers' willingness to pay for Sri Lanka gap certified commodities. So moving on to methodology, my sampling and data collection procedure, I have done this survey in 5 urban districts in Sri Lanka, namely Colombo, Gampaha, Kurunegala, Kandy and Matale. And I have used a simple random technique to select supermarkets. Out of 138 supermarkets in these 5 districts, I have selected 22. And out of these 22 selected supermarkets, I have interviewed 366 randomly intercepted consumers in fresh food section. So for this purpose, I have used 16 enumerators from Department of Agriculture, our CAB officers, and they involved in the data collection, and we have given a training prior to their enumeration procedure. And also, we have used tablet PCs in this data collection procedure, and the tablet PCs were equipped with Qualtrics software for the easiness of data collection. So this gives some sample characteristics of my sample. As you can see, most of them were males, because 63% of my respondents were males, and this sample is slightly upscaled than the national average. As you can see, the monthly household income is around 61,000 rupees compared to national average is around 46,000. And also the level of education, even it is very high. My sample is carrying, for example, GCE advanced level. My sample is having 54% of them having GCE level qualification and above, but national average so only 12%. And other things, being the primary shopper, 81% of them told they are the primary shopper of the household, and also 30% of them told they have had experience on using organic certified products, and also 76% of them told they are really concerned on agrochemical use in farming. And also 39% of them were thinking rice they are consuming is not safe to consume. And this increased to 67% and in tomato, because vegetables, they think it's not safer to consume. 67% of my sample, they think the tomato they are consuming is not safe. Apart from that, 94% of my sample told if it is available, they are willing to pay a premium price for Sri Lanka gap certified commodities. So knowledge and exposure to Sri Lanka gap products, out of my sample, 37% had prior knowledge on Sri Lanka gap commodities. And out of this 37%, only 15% had on-hand experience, have seen or used gap products. So that is really a challenging thing, it's not enough. So the main sources of information on Sri Lanka gap, you can see electronic media contributed a lot. Around 46% is from TV and radio, and even 39% from exhibitions. And an interesting fact is Facebook is contributing, because Facebook, it's around 32%. So we can use, that's an interesting fact, we can use Facebook and social media in promoting Sri Lanka gap. And other sources are internet, friends, and printed media. So theoretical and econometric framework I have used double bounded dichotomous choice contingent valuation CV survey approach. In this, I have recorded their price, normally they are paying for rice and tomato, then I have added Sri Lanka gap price with an increase of 5% to 60% for 2 bid levels. And I have used 6 bids, set of bids randomized between respondents, and in this scenario, tablet PCs were really helping. This randomization was automatically done in the tablet PCs. And this is the table which I have used, the randomized 6 set of bids. And if I show you an example, if we use the 4th bid, which is a 20% increase for gap products, the question will be like this. If the commodity, the price paid for rice is 100 rupees, I'm asking, would you be willing to pay 120 for Sri Lanka gap certified rice? If the answer is yes, I'm increasing the bid price and asking them, would you be willing to pay 140 for Sri Lanka GAP certified rice? If the answer is yes, we are recording that. If the answer is no, we are going for the, if the answer for the first question is no, we are going for a reduced bid, and we are asking, would you be willing to pay rupees 110 for Sri Lanka GAP certified rice? And the answer will be recorded. So this is the statistical model I have used. In this, R bid 1 and R bid 2 denotes initial and follow-up bids for rice, T bid 1 and T bid 2 initial and follow-up bids for tomato, and X denotes the set of covariates affect consumer preference, and beta and delta are parameters to be estimated. If I take an example for rice, the probability of saying yes for the first bid can be written as a function of the bid detail itself, R bid 1, and the set of covariates, the X set of covariates affect consumer preference. So a similar model we can use for the second bid also, and for the second commodity, tomato. The statistical analysis, probability that respondents say yes depends on the bid amount. So we have, in this case, we have two bids that allows us to use bivariate probit model. By using a bivariate probit model, it allows to be the error terms to be correlated within the commodity. To increase this further, to get further efficiency, I have used a multivariate probit model. A multivariate probit model allows us to the error terms to be correlated within and across rice and tomato. So within and across commodities. So we have 4 equations. So through this, we are expecting to get efficient results. And to analyze the data, we have used Tata statistical software. Moving on to results and discussion. Through our analysis, we have seen commodity prices, the bid values, and organic, the prior use of organic products is highly significant and contributing to a relationship. There is a relationship with the willingness to pay values. However, we fail to find any significant relationship with demographical covariates and attitudinal variables. And this shows you the table, the estimated multivariate probit model. As you can see, all these coefficients are significant, highly significant, and negative. The negativity is expected because once the bid value is increasing, the willingness to pay is going down. So the negativity is expected. So the similar thing happened for the other commodity, tomato also. It's also having the similar qualities. And if you think about the error coefficients, as you can see, all the error coefficients within and across commodities, R2 and R1 rice, T1 and R1, that means across tomato and rice, all the error coefficients are significant within and across commodities. So that shows we have gained efficiency in multivariate probit estimation rather than using a single probit regression. So the multivariate, the median willingness to pay estimates, which we have calculated using the multivariate probit estimates, is given here. The percentage premium for SL gap for rice, the MWTP value is for a general consumer who doesn't have any prior experience on organic or nothing, is 42%, and for a consumer who buys organic, that is increasing to 52%. In tomato, the MWTP value for a general consumer is 39, and it has increased to 53 with their experience, prior experience on a consumer who buys organic. So as you can see, in rice it's 42 and in tomato it's 39. There is no much difference. So that means there is no difference, and the difference is also not statistically significant. So that indicates our consumers, our respondents are valuing Sri Lanka GAP standards, and irrespective of commodity. So they are valuing the GAP standard without thinking about the commodity. So that's a good indication because we are at the promoting stage of Sri Lanka GAP. So I have compared these estimated MWTP values to other studies in other countries, and these estimates are comparable to other countries. In Japan, for GAP tomato, the premium percentage was around 19%. In India, for residue-free vegetables, the premium price goes high as 56.6. And in Ghana, for organic tomato, it's around 50% premium. So finally, I'm coming to my conclusions. As we can see, Sri Lankan urban consumers are willing to pay a premium price of 42% and 39% for Sri Lanka GAP certified rice and tomato respectively. And the medium willingness to pay increases with prior experience of other standards like similar standards like organic, the MWTP increases. And as I told earlier also, the consumers are valuing SL GAP standard irrespective of the commodities. So that's a good indication because we can use this for our policy to improve Sri Lanka GAP. Also, the results suggest there is an opportunity for expand Sri Lanka GAP program, but we need an island-wide awareness program. As you have seen, the consumer awareness is not enough. And to generalize these results, further research is recommended with a bigger and more representative sample. So, my message from my presentation is people are valuing food standards and they are willing to pay a considerable premium for getting safe food. That's all. Thank you very much. And these are some of my references.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Roshan. It was very interesting and elaborate presentation of the research methods we have used.
Mr. Roshan, my name is Senarat. While congratulating your findings, I have one question. This is just not directly related. According to your findings, consumers are willing to pay 42% of premium for GAP certified foods. So is this premium is paying for the just perceived value, or is there a real risk involved with the food produced without GAP certification?
Yes, as we have found with interviewing these people, they are not satisfied with the commodities they are consuming. So they are thinking if these commodities are available, they want to buy it. So only problem is the commodities are not yet available. That's the complaint they have. So the premium price is not a matter. That's what they are telling. So in my knowledge, we cannot take that value as it is because they are not yet purchasing. Yes, they are telling if the product is there, I'm buying it, I'm paying a premium of 42%. So if there is the commodities there in the supermarket, there will be a premium price, not 42, but it will be a less value. That's why it shows a confidence interval. I think my confidence interval was, though it's 42, it's the confidence interval was 36 to 47%. So likewise, that's my answer.
Yeah.
I would like to ask something about what the role played by the marketeers or the people who are dealing with the markets. Because normally we know that in the agriculture input sector, the dealers are playing a very much higher role because certain studies found that it is the most reliable information that farmers get from the dealers. do you found anything about the consumers are getting some information from the marketeers or the supermarket?
You mean for Sri Lanka gap products?
Yeah.
Yeah, because there is a trend, coming trend with supermarkets, especially from Cargills. They are now marketing our products. So they want to have information leaflets and they are promoting. Even they have not yet started publishing it on electronic media, but they have already started it in social media. They have a good campaign. They are telling this is safe and we are joint hand with the Department of Agriculture and they are certifying the product. Please buy it. So they have this campaign. So they are promoting. And one another company recently joined with us. They not only they are marketing, they have their own contract growers. And if the contract growers want to come into their system, a prerequisite is they have to agree to be GAP certified. So that's a very good indication. So in future, I think the future is very good.
Is there any reason to selecting only 2 commodities?
Yes, the 2 commodities I have selected is rice and tomato. Rice because out of our food basket, major proportion is by rice. So we wanted to know whether the consumers were willing to pay for GAP certified rice. And we have selected tomato because people think tomato is highly infested with agrochemicals. And some people even doesn't buy tomatoes. So that's why we have selected tomatoes because the perception about tomato as a vegetable is not good. Yes, sir.
You have taken some samples from different districts.
Yeah.
Was there any difference between the location
I'm sorry, sir. Actually, I wanted to do that, but we didn't have enough time to see that variation. So I was thinking to continue the study because I have the data from 5 districts, but I couldn't estimate the variation between districts.
Okay, I think we have an interesting presentation. We have gone into the next. Thank you very much. Next presentation is on the assessment of technical efficiency of maize production in Sri Lanka by Mr. Galabada, WMU Palipan and WMSK Veerasinghe. Ms. Galabada will make the presentation.
Good afternoon to you all. My research topic is assessment of technical efficiency of maize production in Sri Lanka. My name is Jalini Galabada from Socio-Economics and Planning Center. With reference to the extent, production and the contribution to the national economy, maize is the foremost crop in upland agriculture of Sri Lanka. The demand for maize is of 2 distinct types. The demand for green cob by rural households is direct demand, and the demand for maize grain by food and feed manufacturers is derived demand. The maize sector has achieved some notable growth in recent years. Productivity enhancement has witnessed, followed by the introduction of high-yielding maize hybrids. In this graph, up to 2007, there was a gradual increase in the maize productivity, but after 2007, there is a drastic increase in the maize productivity. However, at present, the local maize demand is estimated approximately at 400,000 metric tons per year, which is barely met with the local production. The demand for maize is basically derived from the demand for chicken. Because of disposable income escalation and the rise in tourism and the popularity gained as a better source of dietary protein, the chicken meat intake has drastically increased. The remarkable performance of the poultry sector has led a boost in the poultry feed industry. As a result, the derived demand for maize has increased extensively. Therefore, a substantial quantity of maize is imported annually to meet the momentous surge in the maize demand. The maize importation is bound to be a huge drain on the country's foreign exchange. Therefore, it is crucial to identify the main technical impediments for productivity enhancement of the maize farmers. As a solution to the demand escalation for maize and to competition for land. Within this context, it is important to examine the extent to which the maize production can be increased using existing resources and technology in Sri Lanka. Except for SHAM, who evaluated the technical efficiency of maize production in Monaragala district, such investigations are minimal in Sri Lanka. The specific objectives of my study were to examine the degree of technical efficiency of maize production in Sri Lanka and to identify the determinants of technical efficiency in maize production. Moving to the methodology of my research, technical efficiency is a measure of productivity. Basically, it is the ratio between the observed output and the maximum potential output. Graphically, we can illustrate technical efficiency as here. As example, labor and fertilizer are inputs that can be used to produce an output. In this case, it is maize. This frontier, this curve is the production possibility frontier. This frontier is the plot of the maximum maize yield that can be produced using the inputs labor and fertilizer. If a farmer is 100% efficient, that farmer is producing on this frontier, like the points A, B and C. However, most of the farmers produce below the frontier like D. There are two distinct types of measuring technical efficiency. Under the assumption of fixed input, the ratio between observed output and the maximum output, it is termed as output-oriented technical efficiency, and under the assumption of fixed output, the ratio between observed input and the minimum input is termed as input-oriented technical efficiency. In this study, I have used output-oriented technical efficiency using a parametric stochastic frontier model to analyze the study. It captures the variations both in the effects of noise and the effects of inefficiency. This is the model I have used, the general form of the stochastic frontier production function. The equation for technical efficiency can be derived from this equation as shown here. In this study, the level of efficiency of a farmer was estimated using a Cobb-Douglas stochastic frontier model, treating the maize yield as the dependent variable and seeds, fertilizer, agrochemicals, farm machinery and labor as the independent variables. The variance ratio parameter was estimated using the variability of Ui and the total variability. Here I have shown the inefficiency model used to find out the potential determinants of technical efficiency. The data was gathered from a field survey conducted in Anuradhapura, Monaragala and Ampara districts. covering 60 respondents from each district using a pre-tested structured questionnaire. Let's move to the results and discussion part of the presentation. The results are reported separately for each district and for the pooled sample. This table summarizes the demographic and household characteristics of the sample. Majority of the farmers in Anuradhapura district Anuradhapura district is between 41 to 60 years, while it is between 31 to 50 years in Monaragala and 31 to 40 and 51 to 60 in Ampara district. So the majority of farmers are in their economically active age. In all districts, the majority is male. However, the female participation in Monaragala district is comparatively low. When it comes to the education, majority of the respondents have secondary education, implying that they are educated enough to improve their technical efficiency further. The most of the farmers in all districts are experienced maize producers, and the prominent household size was 3 to 5. The descriptive statistics of the parameters used in the stochastic frontier production function are shown here. The highest seed rate and fertilizer usage with highest average yield is reported in Anuradhapura district. Except for machinery cost, all the other parameters showed significant difference among districts. Here I have shown the results of the stochastic frontier production model estimation. The results reveal that all the parameters of the production frontier are significant at 1% probability level both in Anuradhapura and Monaragala districts, whereas only fertilizer and machinery are statistically significant in Ampara district. As per the results of pooled sample, with the exception of agrochemical and labor, all the other parameters were significant at 1% probability level. Positive coefficient of a variable indicate that an increase in the variable would increase the output. The value of variance ratio in all districts are close to 1, implying that the total variation in the maize yield is because of the inefficient technology usage of the farmers. This table briefs how technically efficient the farm households in each district across 3 districts. The mean technical efficiency of Anuradhapura, Monaragala and Ampara are 59%, 64% and 65% respectively. However, majority of the farmers operate above 60% efficiency level other than in Anuradhapura district. As per the results of pooled sample, on average, the maize production of Sri Lanka can be increased by 38% with the existing resources and technology if the technical inefficiencies are eliminated. But the estimates of this study are comparatively lower than the estimate of SHAM, which was 72%. This graph illustrates the frequency distribution of farmers according to their efficiency score. Majority of the farmers of Anuradhapura, Monaragala and Ampara was reported having efficiency score ranges of 40 to 60, 61 to 80 and 61 to 80 respectively. Here I have shown the results of inefficiency model. According to the results of Anuradhapura district, education level and age have negative and significant influence on inefficiency of maize farmers. The higher education level would have increased the managerial skills and the decision-making ability of the farmers. The usage of irrigation water has positive and significant influence on inefficiency of farmers, which is unexpected under the general condition. However, only 5% of the sample farmers of Anuradhapura have irrigated their maize fields. According to the results, extensive experience in maize cultivation and wide access to agricultural credit have a negative influence on the inefficiency of maize producers in Monaragala district. Larger household sizes positively influenced on technical inefficiency, and the younger farmers are more efficient compared to elderly farmers in Monaragala. According to the efficiency model estimated for Ampara district, only age has significant influence on technical inefficiency of farmers. As per the results of pool sample, those who engage in farming as a primary occupation and higher level of education and longer years of experience in maize cultivation lead to a reduction in the technical inefficiency of maize production. Now I will move to the conclusion. Seed, fertilizer and machinery had positive and statistically significant effects on maize production in Sri Lanka. Anuradhapura district has more room for improvement in maize production without incurring an additional cost compared to other two districts. Primary occupation, education and experience are the major determinants of technical efficiency of maize production. Provision of targeted extension services, facilitation of knowledge and skills sharing with experienced farmers, and bringing young farmers into maize value chain are recommended to increase technical efficiency of maize production. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Any questions, please? Ms. Galabat, until we come out with the questions from the house, I like to just make a comment now. You use the technical inefficiency to do the correlation. So it's a bit uncomfortable. I feel a bit uncomfortable when you say inefficiency is correlated to various things. So is it not possible to use the efficiency, level of efficiency? I mean, it's the other way around, of course. Yes. That is what you, in your conclusions, you have wrote about the efficiency. Yes. But in the estimation, it has been the inefficiency. Was there any particular reason for that?
No, the model is for technical inefficiency. and using that model we can identify the factors affecting the technical inefficiency of farmers.
There are no questions. We will thank the normal way and then we'll get on. Thank you. The next presentation is on assessment of existing fertigation protocols in protected culture of vegetable crops in relation to marketable yield by Erabadu Pittiya, Ms. Galabada and Ms. Veerakodi. So Ms. Erabadu Pittiya will make the presentation.
Let me talk about very interesting but little bit problematic topic in our country. It's protected agriculture, especially it is fertigation in protected agriculture. Let's go into the topic. It is assessment of existing fertigation protocol in protected culture of vegetable crops with respect to marketable yield. This is the outline of my presentation as usual. As we all know, growing perishables in controlled environment or rather protected houses is a common feature in global horticulture. In Sri Lanka, it was introduced in 1997 for cultivation of high-value crops, especially vegetables, to meet the growing local and export market demand. Most of protected houses, farmers are using hydroponic technology to grow vegetables. Actually, the hydroponic or rather soilless culture is a method of cultivating crops in any growing media other than soil or in a pure water culture where all the nutrients are added to the irrigation water. Fertigation in soilless culture is a major determinant of the quality and quantity of the greenhouse crop yield. Unfortunately, there was no proper fertigation schedule for greenhouse crops under Sri Lankan conditions. Therefore, most of hydroponic farmers are using Albert solution as premix fertilizer without specific recommendations on crop as well as growth stages of crops. Albert solution is the commonly available soluble fertilizer in Sri Lanka, and Albert solution fertilizer is formulated and sold by different sector input suppliers. You can see some guidelines for farmers. They said that at recommended quantity. So the farmer need to know the recommended quantity as in another packet of fertilizer it says use as required. Some publication it also mentioned some contradictory information. It is impossible in practical. Therefore, small scale and medium scale growers are facing numerous problems in selecting hydroponic fertilizer and using them for fertigation. The overuse and misuse of fertilizer been occurring while constantly increasing the cost of production. Non-circular type soil culture is practiced commonly in Sri Lanka, while excess fertilizer pollute the soil and water resource easily. You can see here the excess fertilizer directly go into the soil. So the objective of my research study is to collect all the relevant information and to introduce effective fertigation schedules for the growers in protected culture. And second study was done to confirm all the data from study 1 before giving to the farmers. When it's come to the material and methods, this study was carried out during year 2017 and 18 in 3 different districts of Sri Lanka, mainly Kandy, Nuwara and Matara district, which are more prominent for the greenhouse practices. Collect information related to the farmer general background, marketable yield, practical aspect of fertigation and growing media. In addition to those information, in and out temperature, humidity, EC and pH level of media and light condition also measured. Data collection was done using a pre-tested questionnaire following stratified random sampling method, around 30 farmer samples in each district. After the first survey, on-farm data collection was done according to the results of the farmer survey. Those selected crops were subjected to the selected fertigation schedule for 2 consecutive seasons at polytunnel in Peradeniya and Gampala. The plants grown in sterilized core medium in standard grow bags under usual agronomic practices of the farmers. Data recording and frequent observation were continued until the end of the season. Based on the yield and major quality parameters, efficiency of fertigation was assessed. Finally, the output was compared with the study 1. Data analysis was done accordingly, and especially the Tukey test was used because the sample size were not equal for each treatment. Here this graph is illustrated that the composition of the farmers represented in the survey is not equal in each district and represent different sample size in each crop. This is to show some information in demographic profile of the surveyed farmers. Here the 90% of the farmers were male, showing inadequate female participant in protected agriculture entrepreneurship. And also the protected culture farmers have comparatively higher education level because the 100% of farmers are above the GCE ordinary level education, and 9.8 farmers were having the bachelor degree. And also full-time and part-time farmers are involved in this protected culture. This is also an important information. This is on growing media and grow bags. Farmers in protected culture, they were using different material as growing media with different ratios to increase the yield. But in this survey, it shows that there is no significant difference of yield among the growing media, and since the required fertilizer applied daily through the fertigation. So the farmer can use any of these growing media which are easily available and economically feasible because there is no yield difference due to the growing media. And most of farmers are using grow bags for cultivation. From those grow bag cultivated farmers, 66.4% farmers use white color bags because of their high durability and other advantages. And do you know that the 92.6% of farmers, after using those growing media, they're dumping out to the outside all the media. If the media contain high amount of chemicals, it easily pollute the soil and water resources nearby. And 100 of the farmers using Albert solution. When it comes to the fertilizer schedules, the 100% of the farmers using Albert solution as the main soluble fertilizer in Sri Lanka. In addition to that, potassium, calcium and magnesium included fertilizer were also used, and liquid fertilizer as a foliar spray and soil release fertilizer including trace element were used without any recommendation. Here I am categorize fertigation schedules into 1 to 9 because the farmers are using different kind of fertigation schedules because they were practicing what they want, or they are asking for the other farmers or the input suppliers. So we categorize into 9, and now hereafter I am referring these numbers for these fertigation schedules 1 to 9. And we were collected yield data for each crop. For the salad cucumber, according to the yield data analysis, number 4 and 5 were given the higher yielding, and they were the commonly practiced by the farmers. But there is no significant difference between number 4 and 5. So number 4 can be selected as more suitable fertigation schedule because it is lower rate of fertilizer using than the number 5. And same way for tomato, when we analyze the yield data, number 5 was showed the significantly higher yield. Within the selected fertigation schedule also, different varieties perform different yielding habit in tomato. When it's come to the bell pepper, at the same way we were analyzed, and number 5 was given the significantly higher yield in Nuwara and Kandy districts. In Matara district, it was they were using number 6 and 9 fertigation schedules, which are more fertilizer to the plant, which add more fertilizer. But the yield is stagnated at 2 kg per plant. This is because of the excess fertigation resulting in high EC and low pH levels in growing media, and it leads to poor absorption of nutrient by the plant. After that, we want to get the farmers' perceptions on fertigation. We were asked some questions, and they were answered for these like this. And 48% of farmers perceive that increase in fertigation dosage than the recommended level can increase the yield, as well as 46 of the farmers agreed overuse of fertilizer affect the environment. And also here the 82% of farmers said that there is no proper extension service received on fertigation by the government as well as private sector. They were not advised. And 94% of farmers, they said they prefer to use Albert solution because it is very easy to use. And also here the only 16% agree that they have good knowledge on correct dosage. Others are not confident of the dosage that they have to apply for crops, even for the stages of the crops. And 100% of farmers, they prefer to test new fertigation schedule. After those results, as I discussed earlier, we did the on-farm survey to confirm those data and selected fertigation schedule number 4 and 5 was tested in non-farm, get the more details about those yield. Average yield higher than the farmer field because we intensively cultivate those farms, and study 1, the results of the study 1 similar were given the similar results of these on-farm survey also. Here also the number 4 and 5 were not significantly different, so we can select the number 4 as the best fertigation schedule. For tomato, number 5 significantly higher than the number 4 yield, so the number 5 can be selected. When it comes to the conclusion, here the final selected fertigation schedule that I want to emphasize, with limited amount of fertilizer, they can manage to have the higher yield. Only calcium, potassium fertilizer with Albert fertilizer can be achieved the higher yield without using any of other fertilizer, that farmers are expending much more money on fertigation. The selected fertigation schedule can be recommended to the greenhouse farmers after testing at the Research Institute of the Department of Agriculture. This information will help to continue this research up to the finding of critical nutrient levels for selected greenhouse crops, and also the project output will enhance both economic and environmental sustainability of protected culture in Sri Lanka. And this was funded by NAP project. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Now the paper is open for discussion. Any questions, please?
Thank you. Thank you for your very informative presentation. Actually, this is not the question, this is a clarification. In your survey, you have used the stratified random sampling techniques. Then what is the variable you used to divide into the strata?
That means each district there should be a small and medium scale farmers. In that we select random sampling from.
I mean you stratified the whole population into the strata using the size of the protected house, isn't it?
Not the actual size, because the sample should be included all 3 crops, that salad cucumber, bell pepper and tomato. So we selected in the district all the medium scale, below the 5,000 square feet farmers, and from that we select the random sampling.
I think my question was, you have used the stratified random sampling technique.
Yes.
To apply this, to employ this technique, first you have to divide into the strata. To divide into the strata, what is the variable you use? That is the question.
That is the size of the tunnel, full tunnel.
Any other questions? Can I ask you one or two comments? Actually, now you have indicated, I think most of our social research, especially in the socio-economics and extension type of research, we try to measure certain variables like knowledge, for example. Now, in your case, I am not sure how did you measure the knowledge of the farmers?
I just wanted to, it's direct questions, whether you know the correct dosage for this stage of plant.
Yeah. So,
the farmer said directly yes or no.
Yeah, is there a better way that we can test the knowledge?
Yeah, if we want to get further categorized into the 5 levels, and we can get those knowledge.
No, that's actually precise the point that I want to bring up now. Is not only you, I mean many people, when we do socio-economic research, we tend to rely on perception, perceived knowledge. Now he thinks he knows. We don't know whether he knows. So we report that his knowledge, and there is a correlation also. So I think if you want to test the knowledge, how do we test the knowledge when you are in the university or in the school?
A question paper.
Yeah, question paper. Now that may not be the perfect way to test someone's knowledge, but that's the most conventional method. And also now in the, I'm just taking 1 or 2 minutes to share some of my thoughts about research. And then we talk about female farmers. Now we said 90% are male farmers and the rest are female. Now, if you really take the reality of farming in the village household, we don't have only male farmer only doing the farming, other farmer, female doing nothing. So some of these variables actually don't really add much value, because if we want to add value, then we have to go into details how much of contribution from the male and the female members of the household has been making. Isn't it? So in running this place, I am sure greenhouse, if you have a wife or if you have a husband in the house, they will help. So they will not just let one partner to do everything and the other person do completely different. Even if he is employed elsewhere, there will be a contribution. So for us to say that 90% are male farmers doing this is not probably a very good gender issue that to talk about. Not only you, I am just taking it in general. Maybe some of you might think that I am a bit off. Right, okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Baduri. Okay, we are coming to the last presentation of the evening. Evaluation of livelihood improvement of women engaged in Helabojun outlets by Lianage, Matangavira, Nilanta, Palipan and Surangi. Ms. Lianage will make the presentation.
Point again. Good afternoon all. Today my presentation topic is evaluation of livelihood improvement of women engaged in Helabojun outlets. This is the facts that I am going to discuss in the presentation. Let me start with the introductions. With many appreciation from different stakeholders, the concept of Helabojun became a reality during the recent decade. This is actually one of the success stories of the Department of of Agriculture, which the program directly helps to the women for profitable self-employment, and also indirectly to the farmers by promoting local food production, and also to the customers by making the availability of the totally indigenous food with safe and nutritious food to the customers in urban and semi-urban areas. Then actually producing local food is not a new idea to the Sri Lankan people. That is a livelihood strategy that already used by the Sri Lankan people. But the concept of Helabojun was originated, further developed, well organized in an institutional level by the Department of Agriculture. Therefore, honor is gone to the Department of Agriculture for arranging range of totally indigenous food items at reasonable price under one shelter with make availability of safe and nutritious foods to the customers. Then as well, there are many previous studies on role of women in development efforts, but there is no previous studies on Helabojun production by the women. Therefore, key questions still remain theoretically unexplained are whether the whether the Helabojun program alone assists the women to improve their livelihood outcomes, and whether the women can raise their income, profit and saving without concerning their household characteristics. Therefore, this study aimed to measure livelihood outcome attained by women through Helabojun productions, and also to measure the correlation between livelihood outcome attained by women and their household characteristics. Let's move into the materials and method. This is the empirical framework the study used to explain the situation. There are 5 assets available to the people. These assets are used for strategies and generate this type of livelihood outcomes. And then assets and strategies are influenced by the structure and process as well. The strategies and outcomes are again influenced by the vulnerability context of shocks, trend and seasonality. Ultimately, the generated outcomes are reinvested in assets. This is the sustainable livelihood framework that I use, which is simplified by the Ashley and Carney and DFID. In the data collection part, the cross-sectional research design, where data were collected only once through the structured questionnaire, was employed. The questionnaire was built up based on the sustainable livelihood framework, and individuals of 137 women who are working at Batata, Labaduwa, Matara, Peradeniya and Gannaruwa, Helabojunhala outlets were face-to-face interviewed to get the information. And at the same time, as a qualitative tool, the interview guide was used to get information from key informant, and then ultimately the quantitative and qualitative data were analyzed through the SPSS 20 software to generate the research output. Accordingly, for achieving first objective, the livelihood outcome index was developed. These are the livelihood outcomes which responded were yes and no. Each outcome assign a point, and all the points sum up to get overall score. Then overall score was categorized into 3 groups based on the basic statistic, and median was considered as cutoff point. According to the overall score, livelihood outcomes were categorized into high livelihood outcome, moderate and low livelihood outcome. Then paired sample t-test also employed to compare income before and after engagement of Helabojunhala outlet to see whether the women were able to increase their livelihood outcome after engagement of this job. And accordingly, the null hypothesis was income before and after engagement of Helabojun outlet is equal against the alternative hypothesis of one-sided test, t-test for mean comparison of normal distribution. For achieving second objective, the study used the Pearson correlation analysis. Therefore, the independent variable was livelihood outcome in terms of income, profit and saving. Independent variables were household characteristics that recorded at ratio scales. The null hypothesis was there is no relationship between livelihood outcome attained by the women and their household characteristics against the alternative hypothesis of two-tailed test. Let's move into the result and discussion. These are the household characteristics and availability of assets. In terms of human capital, majority of the women were middle-aged, married respondent with quite low education. Their family size range from 1 to 7 people, and they have average of 2 young people in the family. Most of them mostly visited to the government hospital for their medical requirement. In terms of physical capital are mostly available at good level to the majority of the respondents, like permanent house, television and radio, motor bicycle, sanitation facility, passable road and public transportations. They have no natural capitals except drinking water. In terms of social capital, almost everyone have mobile phone. Some of them are members in kind of formal social group. In terms of financial capital, majority were able to use their saved money. Moving to the livelihood involvement in heliogen production and livelihood outcomes, respondents have average of 3 years in experience in heliogen production with the maximum of 10 years. It is nice to mention here that their previous income was around 15,000 rupees per month, and but after engagement of heliogen production, they have to increase. They were able to increase their income more than 26,000 rupees per month. They work at heliogen average of 21 days and average of 6 hours per day. And they have to spend some extra hours for pre-preparation at home, and majority of them were supported by family members. For extra credit requirement, majority were able to use their saved money. In terms of improved livelihood outcome, everyone have achieved improved livelihood outcome with disparities among different outcomes. Accordingly, the livelihood outcome index was 5.68 in average with minimum of 3 and maximum of 9. Thus, 24% of the women were able to achieve low livelihood outcome, 30% achieved more moderate livelihood outcome, and 46% were able to achieve high livelihood outcomes. Let's move into the profitability analysis. Actually, generalizing the profitability through average figures as shown previous slide is not sensible in this study, because the profitability of this kind of productions are depend on many factors, such as the items they produce, maybe sometimes the number of working days they work at heliogen, and also the different day, different customers and customers' willingness to buy. Therefore, the study used the minimum and maximum earners information to generalize the situation. You can see that the minimum earners profit is quite low, which range from 8,000 rupees to around 10,000 rupees per month. They work only 15 days at heliogen and they produce 2 or 3 items. If you see the maximum earners, their profit margin is very high, their number of working days also high, the number of items they produce is not much different from minimum earners. In here, I want to mention something important. This is the maximum profit owner. She is the only woman who directly expressed about her income and profit. But she also mentioned quite less than the actual amount. She told me that her profit margin is around 120,000 per month. But when I calculated according to her selling details, she exceeded 150. She produced only 1 item.
Then moving to the paired sample t-test, p-value was equal 0.000, which less than 0.05. Therefore, the null hypothesis was rejected at p-value of 0.001, which means that women were able to increase their income through heliogen productions. Moving to the Pearson correlation analysis, among the independent variables, family size had low correlation with income and profit, but low correlation with saving, but the relationship is significant. Years of schooling had very low correlation with saving. Years of experience had moderate correlation with income, low correlation with profit and saving. But all the relationships are highly significant. As well, working days per month also had moderate correlation with all the outcomes, and also the relationships are highly significant. Therefore, the null hypothesis was rejected. Null hypothesis of there is no relationship between livelihood outcome attained by the women and their household characteristic was rejected, while accepting the alternative hypothesis, which means that many of the household characteristics positively correlated with the livelihood outcome attained by the women. Moving to the key informants idea, the group leader obviously expressed the satisfaction and happiness about Helibojun Outlets program, and also they expressed their gratitude toward the Extension Office and the Department of Agriculture for giving this chance to them. And also they mentioned a few shortcomings at the Helibojun premises, something like they have no room for a change in dresses. And also, in some places, the customer lobby is directly open to the sun, which is not much convenient to the people. As well, in some places, there is no washroom for the customers. For lone travelers, do not like to stop at Helibojun Hala. So they requested remedial measures for this situation. As then extension officer collectively said, women already working, they like to work more long time at the Helibojun Hala, but as the coordinators and the supervisors, they need to follow the rules and regulation and give the chance to another woman for uplifting livelihood and avoid making something like autonomy at some places. Moving to the, according to the result and discussion, the study conclusion are Helibojun Outlet program has alone assisted women to improve their livelihood outcome and accordingly empowered the women, then some women already have reinvested their outcomes in assets. And also the household characteristics are supportive for improving livelihood outcome. Therefore, the study recommendations are to improve livelihood outcome. The household characteristics that have positive correlation with the livelihood outcome should be carefully considered in selecting the women for the program. And also the study suggested to improve the facilities at Helibojun outlets to make the place much favorable for the customers as well as to the workers. At the end, I would like to acknowledge the direct SCPC of DOA for providing financial support to conduct in this research, and also direct extension for giving me the permit to conduct this survey in the related area, and the extension officers of the related area for supporting me while conducting the survey, and also additional direct at SCPC for encouraging with his valuable comment to me, and also to the additional director and the all the agriculture service officers at GLOALDC Angudunkola Palace for encouraging me to improve the quality of this work by giving their valuable comments. These are the references I use. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now the paper is open for discussion, please.
At the end of the 2007 and beginning of the 2018.
2000?
At the end of the December or 2017 and up to around April 2018.
You have mentioned that some women are having 3 years experience and some are having more than 10 years. Or
Not
something
more than, maximum is
maximum.
10. Yeah,
Did you analyze some correlation or some information about the income of the women with the time period?
Yeah. Not
No, you mentioned that some are 3 years and some are
having 10 years.
10 years. Do you have analyzed the income levels of?
It pairs sample t-test for comparing income before and after engagement.
Yeah, with the time period.
The experience versus income.
No, that the income. I just compare the income before engagement of Helebojunhal and after engagement of Helebojunhal.
Yeah, thank you very much for a very interesting presentation on Helebojun, in fact. But I was just wondering about one of the slides that you showed here. You have shown that after being operators of Helebojun, they have achieved some different levels of household satisfaction or something like that. There was a slide, I couldn't remember that, low level, middle level, high level. How did you classify that?
Yeah, it classified according to the...
I think before that.
Okay, I will show you the related slide. I didn't show that because of time constraint. This is the way that the result interpretation was done based on the studies by the Cohen and Holiday.
No, not this one. I'm just asking. We'll go. Shall we go a bit down?
Yeah, low livelihood, moderate and high livelihood words.
Yeah. What are the low livelihood and what are the moderate livelihood and what are the high livelihood? How do you say that?
Let me show you. Okay. Here. There are 9 activities, 9 livelihood outcomes.
Okay. Suppose if I ask, what are the low livelihood outcomes?
It was based on the score they were given.
Can't you identify? Okay, these are the low livelihood outcome. These are the high livelihood outcome.
There are many livelihood outcomes I mentioned here already. You can see. In the methodology, I mentioned these are the livelihood outcome. Among them, how many of these achieved by each individuals? So, if they achieved less than 6 of them, that if I ask the question, they say yes or no. If accordingly, they were given a score. Then all the score was summed up. Based on the livelihood outcome categorized into that.
Okay. This is only a score, not the livelihood outcome, low level livelihood outcome. Okay. Okay. Right. Okay. Yeah. Then I just want to know that you have analyzed the Pearson correlations. You have shown the relationship with the household characteristics.
Yeah.
Have you correlate with the type of material, type of item they sell? Yeah.
Number of items they produce.
This shows only the
number of items they produce, not significant.
Huh?
Number of items they produce was not significant.
No, the type of material, because that only that unduvel, only the person who sold unduvel obtained the highest profit. Was there any relationship between the type of item, because that may determine the number of sales he or she made and all those things coming into the picture?
Produced item was not significantly correlated.
No. I think Helebojun has become a great success. I think it has really created history in terms of the services provided by the Department of Agriculture. But we have the additional Director General. What is your single most significant reason why it is a success?
Question from audience.
She is looking, pointing the finger at her. Like that. No, maybe the staff monitoring closely, and I think the vision that former Director General has also had probably, I'm sure, contributed. But there's fair bit of studies and enthusiasm has been created into this type of areas. Any other questions from the lady? No, okay, then let's thank her also in the conventional normal way. Okay, thank you, Ms. Lianagi. Right, now we have come to the end of the presentations, and maybe we can, it's nearly 5 o'clock, we are more than 1 hour behind, but of course this is the last technical session for the day. So maybe if you have any comments to make, because we gather here to share something very valuable. It's not that somebody gets an opportunity to make a publication, but we come all the way and then you try to improve the lot. We are a group. We need to help our agriculture. And if there is any comments or ideas that you can share that is useful for the house, we'll have a short discussion. If you don't mind, if you can, maybe less than 5 minutes or so. Any comments in general or targeting to the presenters? It's an opportunity. Anything from the judges? Any comments from the judges? Don't talk about the marks that you have been giving. Eh? Hey, Nan, can you give the other view there?
Actually, she was presenting about the efficiencies. They have not considered about the climatic factors and other things. One point I got from that one. And second one, from the greenhouse cultivation, she has compared Matara, Nuvarelia and Kandy. So there are climatic variations. Especially when it comes to the Matara, I think it is very difficult to compare with the environment with the Nuvarelia and Kandy district environment. Those are the things I want to mention about this.
Okay, any other comments? Right, I think we had a few presentations which are of very high value, and I am very happy about the quality of the presentations and in general the visuals and the keeping to the time and rehearsals that you all seem to have been done, and they are praiseworthy. And we can improve always. The researcher's life is can be improved. Now we are retired. Now we find that we have made many mistakes in our previous, younger days. So it is going on, and I think I urge you all to learn from this experience. And whatever that your colleagues can share with these presenters will also be very valuable, even if you don't express it in the public. If you have any comments, maybe you can email or share such kind of thing, because we need to improve the beyond the farm situation, because especially now being an extension person, I did not find much in some years. We do get typical extension type of research, and this time we didn't have much, but they are all something to do with extension, all right. But I think we need to, I think there are many extension workers also in the audience, so please try to engage and try to research into the intricacies, efficiencies of what we do, because we are at a time that we need to express, we need to find out who should be doing what. and with Professor Sivaganathan actually really highlighted the need for us to change. Because otherwise, extension effectiveness is going to come down further. And one of the suggestions, or one of the things that I have been trying in the recent past is to network. We need to network because we are working in various places. We have various other jobs to do, but yet when it comes to extension, whether you are a research officer or whether you are an economist or any other manager in the field, we all have to come together and combine our efforts to make research, quality of the research and development work to a high level when it comes to extension. Because we know that the approaches of extension is changing, and there is a lot of ICT coming to the picture, and the conventional effectiveness of the conventional extension tools are not going to be the same in the future. We can't take it out totally, but at least we have to adapt and we have to improve those also. The only way to do that is to do some action research and the real field research. So please continue to do those research. And I think I must also take this opportunity to thank the organizers and especially the presenters for the evening, their interesting presentation, and Professor Sivaganathan especially. And then the Director General and the organizing committee for inviting me to chair this session and contribute at least a few of my ideas. And the supporting staff who have been also behind the scene doing all these things, and especially the audience for keeping waiting and listening and giving your contribution. Thank you very much. So with this, I will hand over to Vijay Singh to make any announcements, please. Thank you very much.
We have come to the end of this session. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the chairman of the session on behalf of the ASDA Committee 2019 for allocating his valuable time within his busy schedule, and for the cooperation and valuable comments given by him for making this event a success. Committee has arranged a token of appreciation on behalf of the committee. I kindly request the chairman to accept it. To hand over the token, I would like to invite Ms. Jayanta Ilankon, the Additional Director General, Development, Department of Agriculture. Then I would like to give my sincere gratitude on behalf of the committee to the panel of judges for their cooperation and valuable comments given in the ASDA 2019. Committee has arranged a token of appreciations, and on behalf of the committee, I kindly request the panel of judges to accept them. To hand over the tokens, I would like to invite Ms. Kamani Ranatunga, the Director Extension and Training, to hand over the tokens. Finally, I would like to thank all presenters of the session for their nice presentations and participants for their kind cooperation within the whole period of time. With that, the session Beyond Farm of ASDA 2019 will be concluded, and there are three announcements to be made. One is a request, and Senior Professor Sivaganathan has said that his bag has been exchanged and the black color pen drive has been lost with that. So if you find that, please hand over it to the professor. And second announcement is the technical session 3 of the ASDA 2019 Soil and Atmosphere will be start 8:30 tomorrow at the same venue. And the last announcement is the tea is ready outside. Thank you very much.